Hello everyone. Am I audible and visible? Somebody please ping me so that I can begin with today's session. Yes friends, am I audible and visible? Yes, Sunita ji, good noon. Somebody please ping me if I'm audible and visible so that I can start with the session. Okay, thanks a lot Sunita ji. So friends, today we are going to discuss one of the most important topics, Morley Minto reforms and the Home Rule League movement. Now, before we understand all about the Home Rule League movement, we need to understand the situation of India around 1914. Okay? Now, what role did the World War I play? Correct? We'll see about that. Then, previous to that, we'll see about Morley Minto reforms. And here we will go for a comparative analysis. Correct? In the very start of the session itself, like when I started the Modern Indian History classroom series, I've talked about this aspect, that here we will go for comparative analysis of different acts. Precisely, Indian Council Act 1861, Indian Council Act 1892, Morley Minto reforms 1909, also referred as Indian Council Act 1909, then specifically in the coming years, Government of India Act 1919 and Government of India Act 1935. And this session is very important because we are going to understand what kind of questions can crop up in the examination. So please have a pen and paper along with you so that you can note down the important points. And the rest of the things are mentioned as a part of the PDF or the PPT. Okay? So without wasting any more time, let's begin our session. The session won't be much lengthier, but it's an important one. Clear? Now, before we understand about the Morley Minto reforms, let me go into a bit of background what led to what we say Morley Minto reforms. My friends, right from the start, we have discussed about one thing. Britishers have always adopted two policies in India. That is the policy of divide and rule, and secondly, the policy of specifically carrot and stick. Okay? In 1905, Lord Curzon announced the partition of Bengal on what pretext? On the pretext that Bengal has become too big to be administered by a single viceroy. But what was the intrinsic hidden agenda of the Britishers? To divide Bengal on communal lines. Because West Bengal was a Hindu majority province, on the other hand, East Bengal was a Muslim majority province. And against this began the Swadeshi movement throughout the country. And the call for Swadeshi movement was taken in Banaras session of Indian National Congress in 1905, presided by Gopal Krishna Gokhale ji, who is also the political guru of M.K. Gandhi. Okay, and he was also one of the moderate leaders. So, in 1905, nationalists of all the ranks, they had decided, rather it be the moderates or the extremists, that Swadeshi movement would just be confined to the region of Bengal. Yes, Joya ji, good afternoon. It would just be confined to the region of Bengal. Now the movement began. And as the movement began, it is said that Surendranath Banerjee and Anand Mohan Bose played a very major role in sensitizing the people in the region of Bengal. In fact, it is said that the elements of Swadeshi were adopted as a part, the elements of the other non-cooperation movements were adopted as a part of this movement. Like, although we have seen that the non-cooperation movement, for the first time, the word was coined by M.K. Gandhi, correct? Around 1920 when he began the non-cooperation movement. But what is Swadeshi? Swadeshi basically means we are going to adopt those goods which are produced in our own country and we are going to boycott the other goods. Simple words, we are not going to cooperate with the Britishers. In fact, as a part of Phula Ghuri Dhawa, Assam, Way back in 1861, the peasants of Assam had followed the non-cooperation movement. Way back in 1861. Forget about 1920. Okay. So here, Swadeshi and boycott, both were complementary to each other. Streets were full of cries of Vande Matram. At that time, Britishers wanted to attract certain section towards them. And now Britishers, they poisoned the minds of certain section of Muslims. And they said, what is the basic reason for educational upliftment of the Hindus? Calcutta University. Support the partition of Bengal and we will form a residential university at Dhaka. Okay. Why there is economic upliftment of the Muslim? Because there is a port in Calcutta. Support the partition of Bengal. And at that point of time, we will establish a port at Chittagong. Just give me a second, guys. Just a second. Yes, voice is all clear. Okay, we will establish a port at Chittagong. So in 1906, Muslim Educational Conference was called at Dhaka. And seeing this as an opportunity, certain section of the Muslim leaders such as Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka, Nawab Moshin ul Mulk, all of them together formed what? All India Muslim League with Aga Khan as its president. The branch of Muslim League was established in Lucknow. Okay. And one of the branches was established in London by Amir Ali. Now what happened? Now Muslim League had put forward certain demands before Britishers. Pay attention carefully. Very important one. The first demand that Muslim League had put forward in front of Britishers, like Muslim League used to conduct annual sessions like the Indian National Congress. Okay? The first demand that Muslim League had put forward before the Britishers was Viceroys, at least 2 members in the Viceroy's Executive Council should be Indians. And out of 2 members, compulsorily, 1 should be a Muslim. Okay? Viceroy's Executive Council had 6 members. We will understand this as a part of Morley Minto reforms. Do not worry. So their demand was, out of 6 members, 2 should be Indians, and out of 2 Indians, 1 should compulsorily be a Muslim. This was one of the demand of Muslim League. Second important demand was, we want a separate electorate. Okay? So these were the demands put forward by All India Muslim League in front of the Britishers. Okay. Meanwhile, what happened? Meanwhile, there were dissenting opinion between the moderates and the extremists in Indian National Congress. Extremists believe that if the movement is quite successful in the region of Bengal, why don't we make this movement as a pan-India movement? And they did it so. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji spread the movement in the Bombay Presidency, except the region of Gujarat. Gujarat was not that active participant in the non-cooperation movement. Okay? In Bombay Presidency, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Again in United Provinces, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Lala Lajpat Rai ji, also referred as Lion of Punjab, that is Sher-e Punjab. He spread the movement in the region of Punjab. Sayyid Haidar Raja in the region of Delhi. Chidambaram Pillai in the region of Madras. So movement became pan-India. And in 1906, extremist and moderates differences slightly came to the fore, not completely. Why? Because moderates believed that we had decided that movement should stay intact to the region of Bengal. It has become a pan-India movement. So here, in 1906 Calcutta session, extremists wanted either Lala Lajpat Rai to preside or Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji to preside. But here, the moderate leaders proposed the name of the most revered personality of Indian National Congress, Dadabhai Navroji, the grand old man of India. And it is believed that when his name was proposed, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji and Lala Lajpat Rai ji had to step back. But extremists were successful in passing 4 resolutions. If you want to note them down, please note them down. And there has been a question in UPSC Prelims examination on this. And these resolutions are referred as 4 Calcutta resolutions. And these were Swaraj, Swadeshi, boycott, and national education. I repeat, Swaraj, Swadeshi, boycott, and national education. Okay. Then comes 1907 session of Indian National Congress, which took place on the banks of River Tapti in Surat. Here again, the extremist leaders wanted, or the extremist nationalists wanted, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji or Lala Lajpat Rai ji to preside. But moderates proposed the name of Ras Bihari Ghosh, and Lala Lajpat Rai ji had to step down. Okay? So the atmosphere was very surcharged. And both extremists and moderates were dissatisfied with the working pattern of each other. Moderates believe that Indian National Congress is like a ship. And on this ship, if we have extremists along with us, 100% the ship will capsize. On the other hand, extremists had another belief about the moderates. And they believed that, first of all, moderates, they only focused on the higher echelons of the society. They never started any movement on pan-India basis initially. Third important aspect, what was their achievement? Indian Council Act 1892, and that is Myagar. And when extremist leaders are playing the major role in sensitizing the masses, what are moderate leaders doing? They are negotiating further reforms with Minto, the viceroy at that time. So extremists believe that moderates are a drag on the movement, and we cannot work with them. So finally, at Surat session of Indian National Congress, 1907, what happened? There was what we say split in Indian National Congress. Moderates and extremists parted their ways, and this is what the Britishers wanted. Already they had got certain section of Muslims on their side. At any cost, Indian National Congress was carrying on the movement, Swadeshi movement, on pan-India basis. Now, at any cost, they wanted the moderate section to be on their side, so that they can suppress the extremists. This is nothing but carrot and stick policy. What's that? Simple words. If you have to suppress one particular section, you have to get the other section on your side. So what happened? Now, as per historians, what happened? Like, Britishers offered bait of fresh reforms, and these were referred as Indian Council Act 1909 or Morley Minto reforms. And prior to this, they came up heavily on the extremist. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he was put behind the bars, Mandalay jail, for the next 6 years. Lala Lajpat Rai ji, initially he went to England, from there he went to USA. Bipin Chandra Pal retired from the active politics. Aurobindo Ghosh ji, he settled at Pondicherry. And the extremist newspapers, they were being gagged. Extremist leaders were put behind the bars. And moderates, they were offered bait of fresh reforms, and they overnight became loyalist. And now Britishers have come up with Morley Minto reforms. It is nothing but shadow rather than substance. We will understand how this is nothing but shadow rather than substance in a step-by-step manner. Okay? Why it is referred as a shadow rather than substance? Because you show us something different and you deliver something different. You are portraying that we are actually interested in delegating more rights to Indians. But where are these rights? We can't see them. Correct? Now let's go in an analytical manner. Just pay attention carefully. Just give me a second. Home, military, revenue, finance, law, and then comes public affairs. Okay? Now, as per Indian Council Act 1861, what had happened? Viceroy's Executive Council had 6 members. Like, there were 6 different portfolios, 6 important portfolios: home, military, revenue, finance, law, and public affairs. All these portfolios were held by Englishmen. Very, very simple words. As per Indian Council Act 1861, Viceroy's Executive Council did not had a single Indian member. Then comes 1892. Same thing was retained with, specifically same thing was retained as a part of Viceroy's Executive Council. Again here, Viceroy's Executive Council had 6 members. All the 6 were Englishmen. There was no single Indian member in Viceroy's Executive Council in 1861 and in 1892. Okay? Additional members in 1892 were increased apart from Viceroy's Executive Council. And this included 10 to 16 members. We had seen about Indian Council Act 1892 in quite depth and detail. So the additional members were increased from 10 to 16. Okay? And they were not directly elected. They were indirectly elected. By whom? Municipality boards, zamindar, capitalist, moneylender, Chamber of Commerce of Calcutta. So who are these people? Obviously, these are the people who are loyal towards Britishers. So whom will they elect? Obviously, who will remain loyal towards Britishers? Apart from this, in 1892, budget was there. Okay? You can discuss the budget. You can ask question, but you cannot ask supplementary question. And in fact, you can ask the question by giving 7 days prior notice. I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose in a budget, there is a proposal that we are going to spend specifically out of, suppose there is a 100 rupees budget. Out of 100 rupees budget, we are going to spend 30 rupees on defense or military. Okay? Now you can question that, why are you spending 30 rupees on defense or military? And that too by giving 6 to 7 days prior notice to the Britishers that we are going to question you. Now they will reply you. If they reply you, you cannot ask a cross question. You cannot ask a supplementary question. And the most important point, you can discuss the budget. You can ask a question. You cannot ask a supplementary question. And the most important one, you cannot vote on the budget. So what's the use of discussion in the budget? So all these were the provisions of Indian Council Act 1892. Now, as a part of Morley Minto reforms, now see how these people are showing that we are actually interested in transferring the powers to Indians. What was Muslim League demanding? In Viceroy's Executive Council, at least 2 members should be Indian, and out of 2 Indians, at least 1 member compulsorily needs to be a Muslim. True, this was the demand. At this particular point of time, what happened? As per Morley Minto reforms, for the first time, Viceroy's Executive Council had 1 Indian member. So 1 law member was added to Viceroy's Executive Council as per Indian Council Act 1909 or Morley Minto reform. And Satyendra Prasad Sinha was the first law member. Okay? Moving ahead. Everything has been mentioned as a part of PPT. Okay? In Indian Council Act 1892, the minimum number of members, additional members of Imperial Legislative Council were 10. Maximum number of members were 16. Now, as per Morley Minto reforms, the number of members have increased to 60. When for the very first time, if the person will observe this figure 60, they will say one thing. Yes, Britishers are actually interested in transferring the powers to Indians. But just wait. Out of 60, 27 would be officials or elected. Okay? Many of the book cites it is 28, but the official sources say it is 27. Okay? 27 were officials or elected. 33 were nominated. Okay? Specifically speaking, out of this 33, these were the people majorly who were loyal towards whom? They were loyal towards Britishers. Okay. Some sources say this is 28, this is 32. Okay. Now, let's understand about this. Out of 27, 8 seats were reserved for Muslims as a part of separate electorate. 6 were reserved majorly for whom? Zamindars. And 2 were reserved for British capitalists. 8 plus 6, 14. 14 plus 2, 16. Okay. How many seats are there? 27. So, how many seats are left? 11. Elections are actually held for 11 seats. And how many seats have been projected? 60. I'll repeat the points again. Pay attention carefully. The concept is very important. As per Indian Council Act 1892, the minimum number of members were 10 additional members. Maximum were 16. As per Morley Minto reform, it has been increased to 60. Now, what is the division of 60? 33 nominated majorly who are the people or what we say loyal towards Britishers. 27 were elected. Out of 27, 8 seats were reserved for Muslims as a part of separate electorate. I'll explain what is separate electorate as well. 6 were reserved for whom? Zamindars. And 2 for British capitalists. This comes down to 16. 27 minus 16, 11. So elections are actually for 11 seats. This is nothing but shadow rather than substance. You are showing something else and you are delivering something else. Okay? In previous class also, I had explained the difference between separate electorate and reservation of seats. I will repeat that point again. Now, 8 seats are reserved for Muslims as a part of separate electorate. So, what is that? Okay. Suppose there is a constituency and in that constituency, there are 100 members. Out of 100 members, there are 70 Muslims and 30 who belong to the other community. Okay. Out of 70 Muslims, 2 are the people who are, 2 are the candidates who are aspiring to stand for elections. Okay. And the number of voters totally in that constituency is 100. So what will happen? If a constituency is declared as separate electorate for a particular community, compulsorily the candidate who is standing for election will belong to that particular community. So out of 100, if 70 are Muslims and 2 candidates who are standing for election, compulsorily they need to be Muslim. Plus, the voter should also belong to the same community. The members of entire constituency will not vote. Okay. So your voter and the candidate both will belong to the same community. So these people have the right to vote, not them, as a part of separate electorate. But as a part of reservation of seat, the seat would be reserved for the candidate of that particular community. But who would be the voters? The voters would be the members of the entire constituency. So that is the major difference between separate electorate and reservation of seats. So as a part of Morley Minto reforms, specifically, it is believed that separate electorate was given to the Muslims for the first time. Hope the point is clear, my friends. Any question, any doubt, any query, please feel free to ask in the comment section. I don't have any problem with repeating the points, but the concept should be crystal clear. Yes? Is it clear? Okay. Moving ahead. Now let's speak about the Provincial Legislative Council. So as a part of the Provincial, very good Sunita ji, as a part of Provincial Legislative Council, the number of members in Provincial Legislative Councils were also increased. Like Bombay, Calcutta, Madras and United Provinces. They had totally 50 members. So Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, United Provinces had 50 members. And Assam, Burma and Punjab had 30 members in the provincial legislative councils. Okay, very good Sunita ji, very good Joya. Clear? So, in Imperial Legislative Council, the number of additional members were increased from 16 to 60. In Provincial Legislative Council, they were increased from, like specifically Assam, Burma and Punjab had 30 members and Bombay, Calcutta and Madras had 50 members respectively. You can discuss the budget. You can ask questions. You can move resolutions. But the most important point, you cannot vote on the budget. So what is the use of the discussion? Correct? So these were the important aspects of Morley Minto reforms. Hence it is said that Morley Minto reforms is nothing but shadow rather than substance. You are showing something else and you are delivering something else. Correct? So why did Britishers had now come up with Morley Minto reforms? I'll give you a simple reason for that. First of all, throughout India, Swadeshi movement was going on. And at any condition, they wanted to adopt a pacifist tendency. And for this sake, they came up with Morley Minto reforms. Now, why Indian Council Act 1909 is referred as Morley Minto reforms? Because Morley was Secretary of State for India and Minto was Viceroy of India. Okay? So now Britishers had come up with that pacifist tendency. So, hope you understood Indian Council Act 1909 or Morley Minto reforms. Okay? So, what are the key takeaways that you need to remember as a part of Morley Minto reforms? First thing, Viceroy's Executive Council for the first time had an Indian member, and that too from the section of law. Satyendra Prasad Sinha, he was the first Indian member. Secondly, separate electorate was given to the Muslim for the first time. And later on, this was extended to Sikh Europeans in Government of India Act 1919. So, separate electorate to the Muslim for the first time. Then, Provincial Legislative Council, the number of seats were increased. So, these are the key takeaways in Morley Minto reforms. Now, let's understand about the Home Rule League movement. Now, before we understand about Home Rule League movement, let me tell you about the situation of India from 1908 to 1914. Plus, we will also discuss about certain aspects of World War I and how World War I had an impact on the economy of India at that time. Okay? As discussed previously, ample amount of times that Swadeshi movement, although it was successful, but it fizzled out. And why did Swadeshi movement fizzle out? There was a reason behind that. Moderates, they were offered bait of fresh reform. Extremist leaders, they were put behind the bars. Okay? And movement which had spread throughout India, what happened? Like it is said that it had an abrupt end. Now, from 1908 to 1914, there was a kind of a political vacuum in the country. People had accepted the exploitative character of the British rule as a part of their life. People had accepted slavery as a part of their life. Okay. And in 1911, the capital of India was transferred from Calcutta to Delhi. Initially, Muslim League, which was in favor of Britishers, Muslim League, who were pro-Britishers, now they had started changing their inclination towards Indian National Congress. Why? Because the capital was transferred from Calcutta to Delhi. There was annulment of partition of Bengal. What did Lord Curzon promised? If you support the partition of Bengal, we will establish Dhaka University. We will establish Chittagong port. But in 1911, there was annulment of partition of Bengal. So forget about the port and forget about the new university. Correct? So Muslim League, there were certain sections in the Muslim League who believed that what did we get by maintaining loyalty towards Britishers? And in fact, these young leaders of the Muslim League, they were completely frustrated with the slavish mentality of Aga Khan, one of the prime leaders of the All India Muslim League. And these leaders were referred as young party members. Okay. And what were the reasons for initiation of World War I? Now pay attention carefully. it is believed that Germany, it had played a very major role in initiation of World War I. It is said that the country which rules the water, or the country which commands the water, has commanded the world. Rather it be the Portugal, Spain, Britain, France, or Danish East India Company. And at that time, Britain and France were having the command over the seas. And Germany, under Kaiser William II, declared that the future of trade lies in water. And after 1905, Germany started strengthening its navy. Meanwhile, Britishers had adopted a policy of splendid isolation. Very simple words. What is splendid isolation? We don't care what Germany is doing. Okay, we will focus on our business. But Germany, after 1905, they started strengthening their navy. And around 1910, Germany's navy was the second strongest navy of the world after Britain. Now, this alarmed Britain. On the other hand, Germany, it had formed alliance with Austria, Italy, Hungary, and Turkey. And at that point of time, what happened? Britain formed alliance with France and Russia. And there began the World War I in 1914. And when World War I began in 1914, majority of the resources were driven out from India. There was indirect participation of Indians in the World War I. Okay? And World War I was one of the major reasons for inflationary tendencies in India. There was rise of inflation in India because of World War I. Why? First of all, Britishers had forced commercialized agriculture, on the peasants of India. Specifically in the northern part of India, it is believed that 85% of the land was under commercial cultivation and 7.2% of the land was under subsistence agriculture. Let's consider 8% of the land was under subsistence agriculture, on which 100% of the population was dependent. Already there is shortage of food. And when there is shortage of food, you are diverting the resources from India to Europe. Why? Because your soldiers are involved in the World War I. You people are following the policy of imperialism. You people are following the policies of colonialism. Why are we getting involved in that? Apart from this, apart from rising inflation, unemployment was one of the key factors. So now, in 1914 came Annie Besant. Like Annie Besant initially was also associated with Theosophical Society. Theosophical Society, it was formed way back in 1875 by American Colonel Olcott and a Russian lady, Madame Blavatsky. And later on, Theosophical Society arrived in India. Initially, they focused on studying the world religions. But later on, more than religions, it became a socio-religious organization. So when they arrived in Madras, it is believed that Annie Besant got associated with Theosophical Society and started doing philanthropic activities. And in 1914, World War I began. And specifically in 1914 itself, Annie Besant thought that this is the best time that we should start Home Rule League movement in India. And Indian Home Rule League movement was inspired from Irish Home Rule League. Okay. Now, as I've told you, in 1908, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he was put behind the bars and he was sent to Mandalay jail in Burma for 6 years. In 1914, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was released from jail. And now Annie Besant, she goes to Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji and talks about the ideas of Home Rule League. Okay? She says that this is the best time that we can start a movement in India when the Britishers are busy. So at that point of time, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji said, I am completely fine with that. But in such a situation, you should what we say, visit one of the sessions, or you should attend one of the sessions of Indian National Congress and speak to the president of the session. Okay. In 1915, it is believed that S.P. Sinha, he was the president of Indian National Congress. Session was held in Bombay. And Annie Besant put before him the proposal for starting the Home Rule League movement. Initially, Indian National Congress denied. And Indian National Congress said that we will only support educative propaganda. Like, you can use pamphlet, you can use newspapers, like you have newspapers like New India, you have newspapers like Commonweal. You can use these newspapers to sensitize the masses. But please do not expect the full-fledged support of Indian National Congress in the Home Rule League. At this point of time, she again goes back to Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji says that there's no problem in that, you can start the league. But we will start separate leagues. Why? My working pattern is something different. Your working pattern is different. Yes, there would be coordination between the two leagues. Certain constructive programs would be common between the two leagues. But we both will start our separate leagues. So, it is believed that Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he started Indian Home Rule League in April 1916. And Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji's league was operative in 6 different regions except Bombay. And he started his league from Belgaum, and the headquarters of the league specifically was in Pune. Okay? So he started his league from Belgaum, which is located in Karnataka. Headquarters was in Pune. And in fact, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who is also referred as Muslim Gokhale, he was very closely associated with Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji's league. Now, what were the major demands of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji's league? Swaraj, first demand. Now, pay attention carefully. If you remember, we had seen the sessions of Indian National Congress, and I've talked about the extremist leaders. In that, I've spoken about Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, and he has said that Swaraj is my birthright and I will have it. In Marathi, he says, Swaraj ha माझा जन्मसिद्ध अधिकार आहे आणि मी ते मिळवूनच राहणार. Okay, it's my birthright. But now the ideological perspective of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji has changed. He says that Swaraj is not outside the kingdom, it is within the kingdom. So initially he was supporting what? Complete independence. Now he is supporting what? Self-government. Then, formation of states on linguistic basis. The very first question that comes to our mind after reading the second statement, like Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he is one of the most important nationalist leaders. Why is he supporting the policy of regionalism? Because regionalism is an antidote to nationalism. My friends, this was not the approach of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, why did he focus on formation of state on linguistic basis? The reason was, for example, okay, I am a leader from the central India. Obviously, I can easily correlate with the problems associated with the people at the grassroots level from central India. I have an emotional connect with the people from central India. So I can raise their voices in the Indian National Congress. Correct? Hence, formation of state on linguistic basis. This was proposed by Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji to have a deeper connect with the people. Okay? Then, education in vernacular language. He said that the initial part of the education should be in local language, mother tongue, and the higher education probably can be in English language. If you remember, we had seen in quite depth and detail about the education commissions. Okay, so we had seen about M.K. Gandhi as well, Wardha scheme of education. Wardha scheme of education also focused on what? Compulsory education in mother tongue, vernacular language till 8th standard. And after that, higher education should be in English language. Same thing was supported here. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, his league had 6 branches except Bombay. Now comes Annie Besant. Now Annie Besant, she started her league in September 1916 at Madras. Okay. And the Annie Besant's League had 200 branches. You can easily understand one thing. Why was Annie Besant's League not that successful in comparison to Bal Gangadhar Tilakji's league? Why? Obviously, it is quite easier to manage 6 branches than 200 branches. So in the coming years, Annie Besant's league, it became loosely organized in comparison to Tilakji's league. And George Arundale, he was a secretary to Annie Besant's league. Okay. There were many other members who were the part of Annie Besant's league. Example, Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, Bhulabhai Desai, C.R. Das ji, G.S. Kharpade, Tej Bahadur Sapru, Lala Lajpat Rai ji, B.P. Wadia. Okay. Then Madan Mohan Malviya, then Subramanyam Iyer, and so on. So both of them formed 2 separate leagues, and now they had certain common objective and common constructive program. Example, to establish self-government. We had seen what is self-government. Now let's understand, I'll repeat the point again. Self-government basically means what? Simple words, we are free to choose our own representatives, but we are not completely sovereign. I repeat, we are free to choose our own representatives, but we are not completely sovereign. Okay? Specifically, the head, like we would be working under the British Crown. That is nothing but self-government. Promoting political education and discussion to build the confidence of Indians against the suppression of the British government. Then, maintaining the principles of Congress that is within the constitutional limits. We want self-government. Apart from this, at the later stages, we want independence, but not all of a sudden. In a gradual, step-by-step manner. And that too, within the constitutional limits. Can you observe one thing? Isn't this the same working pattern of the moderates? Correct? Because moderates also, they believed in PPP, prayer, protest and petition. They believe that we want independence, but not all of a sudden. We want independence without bloodshed, within constitutional limits. Isn't the same points repeating here as a part of Annie Besant's Home Rule League? Yes. So why are they working in the same pattern? Because I'll give you a very simple example. A very simple example. Even these programs, even these objectives are new for the people of India now. Why? Because there was a gap of 6 to 8 years. As I have told you, the period from 1908 to 1914 was a period of political vacuum in the country. Let me give you a small example about this. Suppose today you study for 10 hours on daily, you study for 10 hours. And you decide that for the next 1 week, you will study for 10 hours apart from the classes that you are watching. Okay? Now, for 1 week, you study for 10 hours. After some times, you feel exhausted. Now, you decide that let's take a break, and you take a break of 5 days. Now, you extend your break to 1 month. And after 1 month, what happens? You again sit for your studies and you continue your studies with 10 hours. After 1 month, when you will start studying for 10 hours on daily basis, what will happen? You will feel much more better. Why? You are not doing something different. You have done 10 hours study in the past. But now, since there is a gap of 1 month, you are feeling that I've done something new. Same thing here. There was a political vacuum for 6 to 8 years. So for now, Home Rule League movement was new to the people of India now. Why? Because the nationalistic fervor, the enthusiasm, the zeal that was lost has come back now as a part of Home Rule League movement. What are the activities? Common man, the message of Home Rule League, it attracted the politically backward regions of Gujarat and Singh. As I have told you, as a part of Swadeshi movement, yes, the movement was quite successful in the region of Bombay Presidency except the region of Gujarat. Why? Because the region of Gujarat, there was mushrooming up of textile industries. There was revival of indigenous industries. So as a part of Swadeshi movement, there was no major active participation from the region of Gujarat. But now, Home Rule League attracted the people from politically backward regions of Gujarat and Sindh. Then, postcards and religious songs. It was used to sensitize the masses. Apart from this, social work and participation was it was organized, and both the leagues cooperated with each other as well as with the Congress and the Muslim League. Okay. Now the very basic question that arises is, if the Home Rule League movement was successful, why did it fizzled out? The reason behind that was, first thing, when Britishers came to know that Home Rule League movement is getting successful, and in fact, you cannot believe that Indian National Congress, okay, that saw the split in 1907, they will come back again in 1916 at Lucknow session. The credit goes to the Home Rule League movement of Annie Besant and Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Okay, because Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji now had a belief that the old controversies had become meaningless now. Plus, Indian National Congress now required a strong leadership. Why? Because by now, two important leaders, Firoz Shah Mehta ji, who is also referred as Lion of Bombay, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale ji, both of them had passed away. So, Home Rule League movement was responsible for Lucknow merger in 1916. It had created the background or the base for what? It had created the base for the Lucknow merger. First thing. Second important aspect, at this point of time, there was a person referred as Valentine Chirol. He said, British journalist, he had said to Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji that Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was the father of political unrest in India. Whatever was happening in India, who was responsible for it? Specifically, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was responsible for it. So Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he went to England to file a case against Valentine Chirol. So the movement dwindled here. Now, what happened? Initially, Annie Besant was arrested. She was being imprisoned. Later on, she was being released from the jail. And when she was being released from the jail, it is believed that she became a loyalist because Britishers said that, why are you worrying? We are coming up with further reforms. Don't worry about that. And later on, they came up with what? Government of India Act 1919, also referred as Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Because Montego, he was Secretary of State for India, and Chelmsford was Viceroy of India. So this was nothing but what? Home Rule League movement. Yes, thanks a lot, Sunita ji. So specifically, these are the key takeaways, key points that you need to remember from the perspective of examination, precisely related to Morley Minto reforms and, yes, Montego-Chelmsford reforms. Clear? Any question, any query, any doubt, please feel free to ask in the comment section, guys. Okay. Friends, StudyIQ IS, it has come up with GSP2I Foundation Resolution Batch. It's a December evening batch. And the batch will start on 26th of December. The batch is for 2027 and 2028 as well. Okay. The most important aspect, the batches are available in Hindi. It is available in bilingual, that is Hindi plus English. And the most important one, it is available in English language. All the subjects would be taught to you compulsorily in English language, that is history, geography, polity, economy, science and tech, current affairs, and so on. And the prices are starting at a very affordable price, that is 12,999. Okay. So use the code Alok Live that is flashing on your screen to get the benefits of these batches. I repeat the code Alok Live. The batches are starting on 26th of December. It's a evening batch. So do get the benefits. Visit the website of StudyIQ IS. Therein, you will get the detailed information about the batches. Okay, friends? If you have any kind of a question, any kind of a doubt, or any kind of a query, you can contact the number that is flashing on your screen. Apart from this, in the description, you'll get the link of a form. You can fill the form and the StudyIQ team will approach you in that case if you have any kind of a doubt. Okay, friends? So with this, I'll stop my words for the day. See you guys with the next session. Thank you and have a very wonderful day. Bye-bye. Thank you, Sunita ji. Thank you, everyone.